Good evening. I am Matthew Ngolova-Kondua.
And I'm Geraldine Sen. Tonight on For the Record.
Throughout the country, landscaping works, road closures, major arterial and bridge upgrades is what the Fiji Roads Authority is looking to complete in the next few years. Joining us tonight to talk more about this is Chief Executive Officer Jonathan Moore. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for coming on board this evening. And first question for you tonight is, I know that your job is a very demanding one, and this is something your predecessors could testify to. What would make you the perfect guy for the job? What makes you the perfect guy for the job?
I'm not sure there's a perfect guy for any job, but the problems you have in Fiji with the roads are engineering problems. I'm an engineer and 35 years experience of working in infrastructure, roads, bridges and all the things that need to be done in Fiji. So I think my experience and my knowledge is what's required to work on the engineering side of things. It's not the management, or it's not the bookkeeping, it's the actual technical issues around the roads in Fiji. That's what needs to be sorted out.
And what would you say is some of the major problems that we have with our roads, given that you've worked 35 years?
The problem with Fiji roads right now is not a problem of the last 3, 4, 5 years. It's a problem of the last 20, 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
I would say maintenance hasn't been high on the agenda in the past. The road network that you have is fine. It links places to where they should be linked. But the quality of the road is not being upgraded, it's not being maintained, and in some cases maybe some of the bridges were not procured in the correct way in the past. But I'm talking 30, 40 years ago. And that's all compounded by the climate of Fiji and the overloading of vehicles on the road. And also the phenomenal increase in the amount of traffic on the road over the last 4, 5, 6 years.
When you say quality, what exactly do you mean by that? What were our current roads like? Quality
might be the wrong word. I think it was you design a road to suit the traffic that's on there, and as the traffic patterns change, whether it's number or the weight of the vehicles, then you have to amend the road and adapt the road, which is why you'll see in some cases the road may look all right, but you have to change it because the substructure's gone. The road's made up of layers. You basically get the lower layers form the stable structure of the road, and the upper layers, which is normally the asphalt layers, they form the rideability and the waterproofing of the road. Now, a road fails because it's the structural elements that have failed. It's not normally the top layers that fail. They fail once the lower layers have failed. And the lower layer failure can be due to bad drainage, excessive loading, and this is why when you see a pothole suddenly appear in the road, people think it's because somebody's damaged the surface. It's not generally the case. It's because the substructure has been degraded and loosened, loses its integrity, and the surfaces, the layers above just collapse into it, and it weakens the bonds in the asphalt, and it just falls out of the hole. And that's what happens when you don't maintain the roads regularly enough. So over the last 30 years, maybe 40 years, that's what's happened.
So when you say that maintenance works need to be carried out on the roads, like you mentioned about potholes and all, how do you check that the integrity of that particular road, the one that has just been built, for example, how often are those checks made? How do you check and see whether or not it's in danger of, being compromised?
You can generally tell the condition of a road. Experienced road engineers can tell the condition of a road by looking at it. They can take a view, they can see ruts in the road, they can see depressions, cracks appearing in certain ways. The way a crack forms in a road, the direction it forms in, the width of it, how long it propagates, tells you a story about what's underneath. So it's a constant thing. You'll see deterioration in roads very early on, and the first signs of deterioration in roads don't really affect the rideability. You'll see little indentations, or you'll see running ruts down the side of the road. Things like running ruts is where there's excessive loading, where the heavy vehicles have formed a path and it forms a depression in the road surface. And that's the first sign of the substructure starting to degrade. And then it's all accelerated and exacerbated when you don't drain the road properly. one of the problems in Fiji is that you've got a lot of roadside drainage. In urban areas, you take water from the road into a pipe and away from the road. In the rural areas, you let the water run off the side of the road into a drain and it drains away. Perfectly acceptable way to drain a road in rural areas, no problem with that at all, but you must have the drain draining. So what you see, and you'll see it when you go between here and Pacific Harbour, there are drains at the side of the road. The water's so deep that lotus flowers are growing there. And it's been there for so long that the lotus is in bloom. So the problem with that is that that's keeping the water level in the substructure of the road, and that weakens the road effectively. So what will happen over time is that when you drain down that drain, the water drops in the road, it washes all the fine material out, leaves voids, and those voids get bigger with more use on the road, and that's when the road starts to degrade.
It's obvious you come with a wealth of experience. Now, are there people that are working for you right now in FRA that are able to do the same thing that you can do?
Yeah. People, there's guys in there. I wouldn't describe myself as a road engineer. I'm an infrastructure engineer. I've worked on roads, bridges, and pipelines, but I have guys in the team now that are purely road engineers, and frankly, they know more about roads than I do. They're the experts in this. We've got a good few of them in the office.
Locals?
There's a few, one or two expats, and there's a lot of young locals who are learning with these expats, and they know an awful lot about the roads now. Some very good guys, local guys.
And who are some of the people that you work with? Organizations or stakeholders?
The contractors are good. We've got some very good contractors here, international and local contractors. We get a lot of good information from Fulton Hogan, and we go through to contractors like Flame Tree, Fair Deal. They work for us as well. They've got a good knowledge on the roads. It's a mixed bag, really. Some of the consultants, local and international again, they've got some good insight for us.
So with the consultants that you have with your contractors and all, are they just here to do the job that's at hand, the task at hand, or are they also conducting trainings and workshops to educate our local folks on how to become better at their job?
I can't speak for how it was more than 2 months ago, because I've only been there 2 months, but no, the intention is that people learn from consultants. The consultant's role is not just to design something and watch it be built, it's to actually train people and educate people. So we're actively working with our consultants, delivering the work for us, in training our guys in what to do. The first set of training that we're doing will be traffic management. One of our contractors, actually not a consultant, one of our contractors has an extremely experienced 40-year veteran of traffic management, working here in Fiji. And we've made an arrangement with that contractor to run training for our guys. Around the city, traffic management is a big issue.
Definitely. Thank you for that, Jonathan. We'll just go to a quick break now, and we'll be back. You're watching For the Record. Good evening and welcome back. Now, you talked about traffic management, and that has been one of the biggest things that a lot of people have been talking about, mainly because of the upgrade and everything that's been happening with that. Nandi was the first to get the upgrade. Now, what was some of the issues that you faced during that process?
Traffic management, one of the big issues is people believe traffic management is a simple thing that anybody can do, and it isn't. It's a very important role, and it actually has a lot of responsibility for people's safety. I've witnessed some of the best traffic management I've seen in Fiji, but unfortunately I've seen some of the worst I've seen as well. And there's a very, very wide-ranging ability. We need to bring it to a level that's acceptable, hence the training. So everybody working Fiji Roads with our own organisation must pass the traffic management test. That's a requirement. And it'll be an examining test as well. Anybody who's operating traffic management in any respect on the roads has to be qualified to the training that we're giving. And if they're not, they can't have the job. And we're extending that training out to the contractors, to the consultants. We're also working with WAF and FEA and TfL and FNU as well. We're introducing traffic management into the university. We've got a big drive on working with FNU right now, and everything that we're doing, we want to try and include them in the work with us as well.
Is all training done in-house, or do some of the staff get get to go overseas for some training?
For specific reasons, we may send somebody overseas, but my preference would be to bring the overseas to Fiji. I'd rather, training is very expensive. I've just seen a request for training which was $6,000 to go overseas. Well, frankly, I could pay a trainer $6,000 to come here and train 40 people rather than send one. So I'm making contact now with organisations throughout the world to send people across here to carry out the training for us. There's universities, there's training organisations, institutions. I'm a member of 3 institutions back in the UK, and I can work through those as well to try and get people out here. If I can bring somebody here for 3 weeks, he could train the entire team, including contractors and consultants as well. So everybody's on the same basis in that regard. We work in the same way, and all the traffic management's dealt with in exactly the same manner throughout the country.
So Nadi is almost to completion. Am I right, or is there a few more upgrades that need to be done there?
The current work in Nandi on Martin Tar from the airport to Wailolo Junction, that is open now.
Open.
In fact, opened yesterday, right the way through. The work is finished, bar a few service lanes. Down in the Martin Tar area, before Wailolo Junction, we have about 3 or 4 service lanes to introduce. We need to do that because it's a major route into the town from the airport, not only to Nandi town centre, but also to Denarau as well. So if you have vehicles accessing constantly multiple sites on and off a major highway, it causes massive congestion. So the idea is keep the road clear, have service lanes, or access from another route. So there's a small amount of service lane to work to do there. We've also run a road safety audit on the completed road. There's a few adaptations to a few crossings and a few protection areas to do as well. That's all scheduled to be finished by March next year.
And looking at the Central Eastern Division, looking at Suva particularly, where there's a lot of traffic flow, especially during the festive season right now, when can we expect the upgrading project for the Suva arterial roads to be completed?
The arterial roads?
Yes.
Oh, okay, let's distinguish between the arterial roads and the rest of Suva. There's 2 parts to that. The current work ongoing now, we've got work on Kings Road, in the Suva end of Kings Road, which is due to be completed. We're looking around about June 2018 for final completion on those sections of the road. Certain parts of the works will be completed earlier. If you look at Grantham Road with the Gadgie roundabout, that's probably going to be finished around about February, early March time. Certain areas will extend to probably December of this year. So the section from Rewa Bridge in for about 4 kilometres, that is a separate project on its own. That's been plagued by a few issues with land acquisition and ground settlement. We've also taken on more work there as well. Originally it was a road project, but in discussion with the various ministries, it was decided that we would also do a lot of utility work as well. So we've done the water main there. We're looking at doing some cable installation with FEA, TfL. There's a lot of installation of utilities that's delayed the work as well. So that's going to be delayed probably towards the end of 2018, early 19. But what we're doing is we're taking bite-sized chunks of it and finishing them and opening sections of the road as early as we can. So I think you'll see final completion of the arterial works at the end of next year, but you'll see substantial improvement starting from probably March through to June.
So that's within Suva. What about outside Suva? Like let's say Lamy.
Before we go into outside of Suva, there's the inner Suva.
Inner Suva area.
We've done the arterials, Kings Road and Princes Road. Inner Suva, we've got a huge project coming up, starting probably March. That's the Sarup 2 project.
Sarup 2.
That's a 2-year project, and it's going to focus on reconstruction of 20 roads in Suva.
Are we looking at expansions, or is it going to be...
No, we can't expand. Well, I say we can't expand. We're limited by building proximity. We're basically, in most cases, replacing what's there and making it better, making it more...
just upgrading the existing roads?
Yeah, but it's more than just an upgrade. It's actually a reconstruction. So
recently there was one that was done just along, what was that, McGregor Road, I
Yeah.
suppose? Yeah.
It's like MacArthur Road as well.
So MacArthur Road, sorry, my
MacArthur.
mistake.
Yeah, MacArthur Road was completely upgraded. That's the same situation for 20 roads in Suva.
I see.
Now, that's Sarup 2. There will be a Sarup 3, and there may be a Sarup 4. But we're not planning to do SARUP 2 and SARUP 3 and SARUP 4 at the same time. They will follow on from each other. If we were to do more roads than we can manage in Suva right now, it would be absolute chaos.
I see.
And we've taken on board a few lessons. We very quickly learned about the arterial works. Don't do too much at one time. So, we're taking the SARUP 2 contract and breaking it down into packages of 4 roads, and they're being located as groups to be the least disruptive to each other.
So you'd spoken about how the roads will remain the same, how just get a new upgrade and everything. Would the flow of traffic be different though?
Well, where we can, we're introducing things like passing bays and loading bays, and people can pull into them, parking bays, where it's possible. Where we can increase the width of the road, we will do. But increasing the width of the road is only useful on arterial roads. Local roads don't really need to be increased in width. What you need to do is give access to people to pull into the side and drop somebody off or park temporarily. So the reconstruction will make best use of the space available. It'll improve the footpaths, it'll improve the utilities. There's a plan to drop the cables underground as well, which is a good move with being in a cyclone zone. So that's not finalised yet, but we've been working with FAA on that and the Attorney General's office to try and get that into all the future contracts.
Thank you for that, Jonathan. We'll just go to a quick break now, and we'll be back. You're watching For the Record. Good evening and welcome back. Now, Jonathan, what would be some major setbacks for the FRA during this upgrading process?
Ground conditions, outside of Suva, in fact in Suva as well, down Queen Elizabeth Drive for example, there's a lot of silt areas, and that has a lot of problem with compressibility. We want to found the road on stable ground. We found working between coming in from Rewa on Kings Road, we found some really horrendous ground and we couldn't compress it, so we had to consolidate the ground for 12 months. Load it with excess soil, and it consolidates, pushes it down, gives a stable base for working. We're concerned about places like Lamy, Tamavua. There's a lot of silt in those areas, so if we try and do major roadworks in the Lamy corridor, certain areas of Suva down on the seafront where the rivers come into the sea, we can face issues with ground conditions.
Were you planning to do any works next year within Lamy area?
Yeah, there's a plan to change the Tamavua Bridge. We're looking to do that by June. We're looking at a modular section bridge to come in. We're targeting June, but I have to admit it's a very challenging target. It takes no account for weather, but we have to challenge ourselves to try and do this thing quickly. Tamavua is not in a good state. It's okay for now, but if we don't do major repairs on it, then it won't last very long. To do major repairs, the cost, we may as well replace the bridge, ultimately.
Would that be the same case for the Stinson Parade Bridge as well?
Stinson Bridge is about finished actually. The deck's across, the approach roads are being done. That will be open officially, and according to the contract, it'll be open in June of 2018, but the contractor has done a pretty good job there. And he is targeting to finish earlier. We're hoping it could be around about March, April if possible.
So earlier on you had mentioned about maintenance works. So now that these, say the Stinson Parade Bridge would be open, say around June 2018, how often will maintenance works be done and checks be done on that to ensure that the integrity of the bridge is still...
What you do, you have is a routine inspection process. So on a new bridge, it's basically when you first finish building a bridge, you want to check it out structurally to see if there's any major catastrophes that were missed in the construction. And in the first 12 months, you'll find anything major. 99 times out of 100, there's nothing at all to worry about. And the way that Stinson Bridge is looking right now, it's been done pretty well. So we've got no major concerns in the short term, but it still doesn't mean you don't inspect. You inspect every year. Initially, it may be a cursory inspection, but again, experienced bridge inspectors will know if there's a problem by looking at the bridge, and they'll know what to look for to find out if the problem is serious or not. So this is why we want to bring in consultants to work with our own team for the first 2 years and train our own team to actually understand bridge inspection works. Alongside the bridge inspection regime, you have a maintenance program. Now, maintenance could be something as simple as just washing the bridge down. It does make a massive difference. In the marine environment, you want to make sure that you're keeping the bridge clean and free of marine debris. But then as you go further into the life of the bridge, you check the bearings and you check the concrete integrity. And at a certain point in time, maybe 15, 20 years into its life, you might do some testing into the structure. You might do a few cores into there if you've got particular concerns. So you establish your inspection program and you establish your maintenance program, and the two run side by side. And the inspection program informs the maintenance program of what needs to be done.
Okay, let's say if you were to replace the Tamovoiwai Bridge, how long would that take?
To replace it?
Yeah.
If you want to do the conventional concrete, it's probably 2 years. But we are looking into a system now where you use a modular steel bridge. And we're not talking about the Bailey bridges you see down at Vatawanga, the temporary bridges.
Yeah.
We're talking about real, permanent, 80-year life bridges that there'll be a steel structure on concrete piers. We've been discussing with suppliers of the bridges, and they can be delivered within 6 to 9 months from order to operation in the field. So rather than pour the concrete, do the steel, pour the concrete, do the steel, you end up just launching decks across. A very fast method, and they come basically in kit form. It's like a giant Meccano set. It comes in containers. You unload it, you weld it, you bolt it, and it goes across the river. It's very fast. We saw a demonstration by one company that did a 100 metre installation of 12 metres wide in 18 hours. But the preparation work is what's important there. We have to do the piers, the abutments, the approach roads, and then just lift the bridge into place.
How long does an average street light last for?
It depends on the type of street light. Generally, you're probably looking at between 4 and 6 years for the lamp part itself.
And given that a lot of them, not all of them, but some of them seem to be failing, and we went back on inspection, could most of this do with mismanagement?
I think mismanagement's a bit harsh. I think streetlights are like any other part of a highway network. It needs to be maintained and inspected, and you need to keep up with technology. I just talked about bridges being launched in 6 months. The reason you can do that is based on technology developed through military installations. So that's been taken into the construction industry. So you, as a road authority, you need to keep current on what's happening. And a lot of the electrical installations we have, not only street lights but traffic lights as well, they are very, very outdated systems. We have some new ones. If you go across to the Wailoa to Nandi Airport, it's got new street lights and new traffic lights. They're the latest technology. But you look in some areas, Central Suva, for example, if I'm honest about it, I think we struggle to find spares these days. It's so antiquated.
How outdated are they?
20, maybe 20 years, 25 years possibly. That's a bit harsh maybe, but 20 years I'd say. That's why we're doing a very extensive replacement program. There's around 40, 45 sets of traffic lights in the whole of Fiji. And I think apart from the new ones in Nandi and other areas where they've been replaced recently, we're looking to start replacing them as of around about February, March time. The first consignment arrives in February, and we'll be changing the first sets out from March onwards.
What is the average shelf life of pedestrian signals and traffic lights, though?
Oh, that's a good question. It gets shorter as technology improves, and you've got to draw a line in the sand and say, right, we're going to do this now, and that will give us 10 or 15 years. Because in 5 years' time, something new will come up. There'll be a new way, but is it worth changing it in 5 years and expending huge amounts of money to change it again in 5 years? Or do you wait another 10 or 15 years where what you've got is still okay, but then in 15 years' time you can change it to something that is really advanced from where it was?
Thank you for that, Jonathan. We'll just go to a quick break now and we'll be back. You're watching For the Record. Good evening and welcome back. Now, we've spoken so much about the western side, Nandi, and of course with Suva as well. How about the north, Bonolebu?
Yeah, I was in Vanalevu 2 weeks ago. I had a few days there, touring around, drove on some of the unsealed roads in the rural areas, took the new road from Lambawalu to Lambasa.
I heard about that road.
Yeah.
They apparently a lot of commuters really love the upgrade.
It's pretty good. I'm a bit concerned about the livestock that wanders across the road most of the time there, but pretty good road, yeah. Lambasa, we're doing some work in the town centre for improving the footpaths. We've got a few more missions in Lambasa with street lighting, starting Q2 next year. We're looking at Sabu Sabu as well for street lighting. There's a few issues we have to attend to on some of the roads. I'm thinking of things like the Loma Loma slip. That's a bit of a concern right now. We need to get an action plan around that, and the guys were meeting yesterday to work out the best way forward. So hopefully in the new year we'll have a way forward on that one. But one of the things we're also trying in places like Vanalevu is trying to work out some resilience in the network.
Okay.
One of the problems in Fiji is that you've got very little resilience. So if one of your major roads is affected badly by something,
everything else
you've got nowhere to go. So we're trying to look at, not only in Vanalevu, but that's a special case. We're looking at Vitilevu as well, trying to find ways to get, for example, from Sabu Sabu to Lambasa without using the existing road. I know there are tracks and there are unsealed roads across the island that with a small amount of work we could link together and they would give you an alternative route through. There's also options in Vitilevu as well. So that's a long-term, probably the 5-10 year plan to get some resilience in the network. Major projects, and they can be quite expensive. We just have to make sure that the value for money is there as well. But Vanalevu, yeah, there's a lot of work happening there. On the south of the island, Budha Bay, we did a large project there, and there's a pretty good road. It's one of the best roads I've driven on for a long time, actually. And the Nambawalu Lambasa roads, yeah, we like that one.
Now, I know you mentioned the footpath. This is something that a lot of people had questions to, especially within the Suva area. The major upgrades within the area, the new pavements, footpaths, and everything that was built. Now, why was there a need to do that?
Footpaths?
Yeah, especially within the Suva area. I mean, given out of everything that would require a more urgent need.
No, I don't know. The footpaths are an urgent need.
Yeah.
The main function of a footpath is safety.
Safety.
Pedestrian safety. It delineates where cars go and where people go. Cars don't go on footpaths, people don't go on roads. That's the way it should be. If you've got no footpath, then you've got no delineation, and it's a public safety issue.
Just quickly touching on that, when there are roadworks that are done, for example, I know for a fact in the Nakasi area, the roads were upgraded. They've become completely tar sealed now, and then the sides were dug out to make way for footpaths. However, it's been a couple of years now, and as of now, there have been no footpaths that have been put in place. It's just basically just mud and silt. So, how does that happen? And why is it that footpaths are not put in straight after the road has been constructed?
There should be. The fact of it is it should be done. There are many reasons why it wasn't done in that particular case. There's priorities took over, which people have varying degrees of acceptability around. But just on that particular issue, we do have a footpaths programme starting next year where situations like that will be caught up, and we'll be going to areas where there should be footpaths and putting them in. We take footpaths. Well, I take footpaths pretty seriously. I say for the safety reasons, but also, I mean, kids going to school, old people walking down the road, wheelchair users.
What about in town areas? Can they expect the same thing with footpaths?
Yeah, I mean, every town should have footpaths.
Going back to something somebody had said earlier in the year, there was kind of the responsibility of the town council to handle something like that.
There's a separation between installation and maintenance. Yes, there are some footpaths that should be maintained and managed by the town council, but when you're doing a road construction, it is common sense to do the roads, and we have a footpaths programme in various places that works in alignment with the roads. The Sarup 2 project, a lot of the footpaths will be done on the Sarup 2 project. Makes sense. We're trying to get to a holistic approach of infrastructure where we deliver everything at the same time. That's why the Rewa section of work for S3 on Kings Road was done in the way it was done. We took over the water main. We're working with FEA and TfL to do works there as well. So we go in there one time only, and that includes footpaths and drainage. You go in one time, do all the work, get out, and don't bother about it for 4 or 5 years. That's the plan. What we don't want to see is vast amounts of money expended on the roads, and then 2 months later, WAF come down and do a water main there. Now, they don't want to do that, and we don't want them to do that. So that's why we're working very closely together to make sure it doesn't happen in the future. Now, footpaths, FRA, Suva City Council, does it really matter as long as there's a footpath there? It just needs to be put in place.
Also, since we're heading into, well, actually we are in the cyclone season, we can expect a lot more rain, and you know, Fiji being the country that it is, we can have a lot of landslides that occur and all that happening, especially with the new roads being built and all, you know, you need to make way for that, lands are being cut and everything. What happens? Whose responsibility is it to make sure that, you know, landslides don't occur, for example? Is it the owners, or does the FRA have to liaise with the owners, put in place, you know, measures to make sure that the land or the mud does not come onto the road? Because I can understand when there's a massive landslide, it does cause a lot of problems. You need to spend a lot of money and get your workers out there to clear out the silt and mud and everything.
The initial responsibility for a landslide is the landowner's responsibility. So if the land slides onto the highway, then the clearing of the highway will be done by the FRA. But we don't have the resource, the budget, or the time, frankly, to do the work on behalf of landowners. They need to take responsibility for their own property. There are slips that occur away from roads, and that's dealt with by the landowner. So I don't see the difference why it wouldn't be dealt with the same way next to a road. If the slip occurs within the road reservoir, then we'll deal with it. And we are actively looking around the country now to look at places where slips are potential and identifying them and working out the best plan of attack on those. But they are very unpredictable things, landslides. And in a strange way, you can actually have a worse effect by trying to deal with it than if you leave it alone. People say strip the trees down. Well, not always. Sometimes the trees bond it together. You can't. There's no one single solution for stopping landslides. So, to answer your question, ultimately, we'll keep the roads clear, but it's the owner of the property who's responsible for the landslide.
Thank you so much for that, Jonathan. We'll go to a quick break now, and we'll be back. You're watching For the Record. Good evening and welcome back. Now, Jonathan, what would you say would be some of the milestones for 2017? Some of the biggest achievements for this year?
2017, I think the reorganisation of the FRA was quite important. We're working hard to get a new structure in there, increase the resource and the number of people. We're trying to get a bit more, streamline effort going. Focusing on things like governance and quality and safety and audit processes. So we've introduced a new structure for the team. What it means is that we have more responsibility and accountability, but we also have a lot more people. The FRA is running very lean right now, in fact too lean, and we need to get more people involved in it. And I think a lot of the reasons why people have gone is because there's a lot of pressure on people, huge amount of pressure on the staff. And as people leave, it gets more and more. And there's a lot of good people in the FRA who are trying to do a good job. So one of the biggest things we've done so far this year is to actually change the way we organise the team. From a work point of view, I know people are concerned about congestion and disruption in Suva, but we've progressed on with some of the arterial works quite quickly. And targets like Stinson Bridge and Batawanga, they're going to have big effect once they're finished and open. And across to Nandi, we've finished from the airport to Wailolo Junction. Well, that's been a bit of a mission as well. So there are some good milestones, but looking further afield, we're expanding into the rural areas as well. We're looking at doing major projects into Nusuri Highlands, for example. We're looking at a major scheme starting early next year to really improve Nusuri Highland Road for probably 10, 15 kilometres in from the main road. New bridges, seal in some places. And we're looking to do that in more and more places around the country. And the other milestone we mark in 2017 is the bridge improvement programme as well, and replacement programme. Bridges are a big issue in Fiji. You've got 1,200, and they're all in various states of concern right now, ranging from pretty concerned to, oh my God. But yeah, we're dealing with that now.
Yeah.
We're doing the maintenance required to keep them functional and safe, but the plan is to change them as soon as we can. Over the next 3 years, probably 40 bridges will be changed.
Yeah. Recently in the news, you asked for the public to be more patient, and to bear with you, of course. Obviously, things will be progressing, more upgrades will be happening. Is there anything else you'd like to let the public know?
Yeah, I think one of the problems that's happened is the scale of work going on all at the same time.
Yeah.
We're not doing that anymore. That won't happen again. We've been more deliberate about the programme. But everyone has to understand that the roads are not in a good condition, and work has to be done. So our part of that is to do the work in a considered way. So we're not doing the multiple arterial road works at the same time. We're not doing the multiple bridges work at the same time. We're going to plan it logistically to make sure there are alternative routes. But there still needs to be patience. My big concern right now is impatience leads to danger for my guys on the road.
Okay.
I was out in Edinburgh Drive yesterday, and there's a 30km/h speed limit, and one of the cars going through was doing at least 60. I've got guys working a metre away from that car, and I'm very concerned about them, and I won't jeopardise their safety. If this kind of thing continues, we'll start introducing speed bumps, and ultimately we'll stop work.
Yeah.
I'm not risking people on the roads because drivers can't drive to what the speed limit is.
And then it comes in, the question does come in, which a lot of people have been asking, why can't they work at night and not during peak hours?
They can work at night, but unfortunately Suva seems to have more rain at night than in the day. And rain does affect the construction of roads.
Okay.
We are working at night. We're trying to work as much as we can at night. But on the converse side, working at night has different dangers for the guys on the road. Drivers may drive too fast with less light. They may be tired from the day, and it's no safer for the workers I've got on the road at night than it is in the day.
Looking at 2018 coming up, what are your plans?
Many.
Yeah.
We're working on many programs right now. The bridge program is very important to us. The resilience program is very important. But I think a lot of it is, I've only been here 2 months. I think I need another month or so to get used to it. Then I need another 2 or 3 months to start enacting change, and then another 3 to 6 months to get the change in operation. So I think for me right now, one of the biggest things for 2018 is to get the team organised properly and get more people on board to work with us, and to get the contracts organised for the contractors and the consultants as well, to make it more streamlined and more efficient. I think it's been lacking in the past, a bit of efficiency in what we do. I'm all very keen on efficiency.
Mr. Moore, I just want to thank you for coming this evening, and just clarifying a few things about the roads and everything. I'm sure a lot of people wanted to know about this because of getting late to work and all that every morning. But from what you've said, a lot of clarity has been brought up on the subject.
Well, that's
as well.
what I'm here for. And if I'm open to any question. I'll answer it any way it needs to be answered. People need to know.
Yeah.
Any final words for people out there during this festive season?
Please drive carefully. We're trying to make sure the roads stay as free from congestion as possible during the season. I've given directions to the contractors to not congest the roads unnecessarily. If they're not working, pull the machinery away. Make sure as many lanes are open as possible. There will be activity during the Christmas period because we need to do it. But just enjoy your Christmas break, and please be careful out there.
Thank you again, Jonathan. And thank you, Geraldine.
Thank you, Matthew.
If you have any further queries or issues you'd like to raise with the Fiji Roads Authority, contact their head office on telephone number 3100 114 or toll-free line 5720. From Geraldine and myself and the rest of the team, have a good evening.